Yeah, I think we've.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I am Fabio Ribeiro, and with me, Denise Driscoll. I am the director of the center that I would like to explain to you. It's very cool. We certainly think so. And Denise, we work together, and Denise is the director of diversity and inclusion, and then she's going to talk to you about one piece of CISTAR, and so we'll do a tag team here to talk to you about graduate research opportunities in what's called an engineering research center, which is probably something very different from what you're used to, and it is a program that's designed to give graduate students the best possible education you can have. So this is funded by the National Science Foundation, and that's our mission. We have to actually show to them that we can give to you, our students, an education that they wouldn't be able to get otherwise.
The screen went blank.
Yeah, I guess I see Stephanie. There was a message from Stephanie.
Sorry about that. Can you put your screen back up?
Okay. Okay. So you said something about waiting for a few more minutes, but it's okay to go ahead, Stephanie?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So let me go back here.
Yeah, I've got to figure out how to get off her screen again. I'm still on her screen.
Yeah, no, I'm sharing now. So do you see now? Yeah. So everyone, so you should see a screen that says CISTAR on the top left. It says Big Ten Grad Expo. Are you seeing that, Denise?
No, I'm still seeing Ramsey's screen.
Yeah, so his screen froze in the last session, and I can't get it off of there. Let me have him maybe restart his computer. That way it'll just maybe kick him off permanently here. Okay.
So we will wait for the people coming in late after all.
Yeah.
I can see Professor Ribeiro's screen.
Can anyone else?
If you go to view options at the top, you can select whose screen you can see.
There we go. Yeah, I did that once. It just switched off again.
You guys are so smart. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Sidan.
Thanks.
So everyone can see it now, the screen. So I assume so. If not, then let us know, because I guess Sidan can give you some more instructions here. So assuming that you can see the slides then. So yeah. I'll go forward. So I wanted to give you a few introductions in the beginning, then tell you about what an engineering research center is, then our impact, and we'll see that we work in 4 pillars, which I will tell you in some detail, and then the unique opportunities, and then we'll have time to chat. And I was thinking that if you guys have questions, then this could be, we can make this informal. We can talk as we go, or you can wait until the end. On the right here, you will see. It's also the background picture that I have. This is our center, the building that we are in. We are on the 2nd floor of the building that you see on the background of my image. And then the joke that we make. This is a figure of the solar system, and that big thing there in the center is the sun, which is a star, and then we say that for now our authors, you see the star, which is the name of the center, so we say that they did that for us. So let me go explain to you the CISTAR vision and relevance. So what are we about? We are about energy, right? I think you can say, what is the most important issue that if resolved, you could solve most problems in humanity. If you think about this, it is energy, right? Because give me enough energy and I can give you as much water as you want. I can transform a desert into a land that can produce anything you want. All I need is energy, right? I can take water from the ocean. I can take the salt out. I can transport that water to anywhere on Earth if I have enough energy, and I can make ammonia to make fertilizers from nitrogen from the air and from the water. So I can do those things. I can give good living conditions to people, feed people. So with energy we can do anything, right? And then it is, in fact, in terms of industries, it is the largest energy there is, right? There is nothing that's bigger. Even food comes second, right? The first thing you have at the top. What's the most important attribute you need to have to make anything you want? This is energy. So CISTAR is about energy, and how do we go from a world that we have now that uses 80% of the energy we use comes from fossil fuels, right? Coal, oil, gas. How do we go into a world where we have sustainable energy, and it's renewable energy, right? So to go from one side into the other, right? And we call that a bridge fuel, right? You have to go on that bridge to go from one piece into the other. So what are the issues that are at play? How do we do that in the best possible way, the most benign way? Because one thing we cannot do is just stop using fossil fuels now, right? Because we need to first have the other type of energy that then we need. So in this center, we think about those issues. And as I told you, energy is at the top of the ladder as the most important issue that needs to be resolved, right? With that, we can solve almost any problem in the world. So we are about, there are some resources in the US, it's called Shale Resources. And what you see in this map are all the places where those resources are located. And you can see that they are everywhere in the United States. And they are very, very much distributed. There is energy in those places to run the country for about
Vamos fuera, vamos, aquí nada, aquí no se nos ha perdido nada. Vamos, tira. La vida es así. Venga, vamos a ver, esa niña que pasó, que no podía pintar en un tronco. Nada, qué chica.
Yeah, those resources are all over the United States. And what we're trying to find out is how to use those resources on that bridge field that we talked about, so that we have this transition between fossil fuels into renewables, but using the resources we have currently and the best possible resources that are available, so that we can go into that transition between fossil fuels and renewables. So that's what the center is about. It's about energy, and in particular, this energy that the U.S. has a very large amount of. Now, how that looks for the in terms of the future. So here is you can see in this graph is a projection from an organ, part of the government, the Department of Energy, called the U.S. Energy Information Administration. So they make predictions on the use of energy for the world. And then here is where we are in 2020. Then you can see right now what sources of energy that we use, going from natural gas to oil to natural resources. Then you can see that as the time goes on, even in 2050.
Looks like we have a Zoom bomber. Sorry, Fabio, we're working on it.
Yeah, as we go in the future, you can see that even in the future, you can see that the place for natural gas is still going to be very large, and the renewables, of course, is going to go up. But even in 30 years from now, although the amount of renewable energy is going to be about 20% or so of the total energy, we're still going to be using quite a bit of fossil fuels, right? So then natural gas will continue to be a major part of the energy mix, but we can help into decreasing the CO2 footprint. Now, for all this to happen, right, we need to have the right people to form and inform the public, and also prepare the next generation of the people that are going to make this energy transition for us, right? And that's what our center is doing. So there is a very large opportunity for the U.S. now, and those are actual pictures in the back end, which is in North Dakota, the actual fields, and they have some gas processing on that, and they make a lot of gas. And the piece that we are interested in particular is called the natural gas liquids. Those are C2 to C5, right? The ethane to pentanes. The issue with that those hydrocarbons don't have much value. But if you can transform that, and the U.S. produces now about 4 million barrels per day equivalent of this C2 to C5 fraction, how much added value you would think you could have if you could transform these 4 million barrels a day of C2 to C5 fraction into liquid fuels like gasoline, diesel, jet fuel. So to make this thing a bit interactive, how much do you think you would gain if you could transform those gases, which doesn't have much value, into liquids? So if you could go into your chat box and just take a guess of how much do you think the added value would be if you could discover a process that would transform those light gases into liquids. So I'll give you 30 seconds to, if you want to write in your chat box. So to give you a hint is the price of gas, the same amount of energy, right? Suppose you want to heat up water. If you use gas to heat up your water, or if you use a liquid fuel to heat up your water, it will cost 3 times as much if you heat up your water with a liquid. And the reason for that is that the value of the liquid is as a form of energy. The same amount of energy in liquid form is much more desirable, right? Because that's how we use in our cars, airplanes, locomotives, and things, right? To transport energy, it's much easier for light gases. So if you guessed how much that value is, that's about $100 billion per year in the U.S. economy. So we are dealing with something that's very important for the country. If we could come up with a way of this energy transformation, then it would benefit the country tremendously. Imagine the number of jobs that this creates, and also the U.S. would not be dependent on oil or energy from other countries, right? So that's a very important value for the country. Now, in terms of impact of the center, we have about 200 people that are part of the center now. We are composed of 5 universities. It's Purdue University, Notre Dame, University of Notre Dame, which are in Indiana, Northwestern University, which is in Illinois, University of Texas at Austin, right, which is in Texas, and then University of New Mexico, which is in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So those 5 universities compose our team. You can see a picture there on the last meeting that we're able to meet in person. This was at Northwestern. That's the picture on top. We have faculty, we have professional staff, graduate, undergraduate students. We have summer students that come and work with us, undergraduates, even high school students. We have also teachers, high school teachers. We have sponsored projects from industry, right? I'm gonna show to you next that we work very closely with industry. And that's an opportunity for you to see if you're interested as an engineer, right? This is a graduate program in engineering, not only to see how your research can make an impact in society, right? And so people in industry, they are the best people to tell us about, because they're worried about the economics, right? So economics, you learn quite a bit on how to do this translation of something that you discover in the lab all the way into making it into practice, right? And so this brings you interesting aspects, for example, like entrepreneurship, right? How, if you want to start a company, how would you do that, right? So we train people on how to do all those things. So we already had that 33 degrees granted. We have greater than 80 publications, and over 10,000 students and 700 teachers have attended our educational outreach events. So we reach out to many people. So when Denise will talk to you, you see that we reach out to people. It's part of who we are. Not only of course, we have the students, that would come to us, but we also reach out and we give back to the community too. So we, as a center, we are divided in 4 what we call pillars, right? Engineering and research, education. So those the name tell you what they are. Inclusion. So you cannot solve a problem of the magnitude that we're solving without a diverse team. So it's not that we're looking for diverse people because we have a mandate. It's because we need them. We need you. And we need the whole community to come up with us, because we need a different idea, right? And those come with people from all kinds of background. And the last one, innovation, is this interaction that we have with industry and other government agencies, non-government agencies. We interact with what we call an innovation ecosystem, that we work together, and we try then to solve this energy problem, right? As a big team. So let me give you just a quick overview of our engineering and research. The hallmark of an engineering research center, which is what CISTAR is to actually deliver at the end of year 10, right? And now we are entering year 4. We just entered year 4, so just completed year 3 5 days ago, to deliver an actual process. So we have our teams that are separated in what we call trusts. And you can see there in different colors, there is some trusts that are interested, focused on reactions. There's some that are interested in separations, that are others that are interested in process design, and how then you put it all together, and how you come up with an economics so that we discovered a new technology that we can then interest our industry partners enough that they will then take these ideas that we have and bring that into commercial application. So the main technical mission of our center then is to deliver an engineered system, right? So something that industry we're going to look at and say, I know how to take this now and make this as an actual producing facility. Now we do that with help, I mentioned to you, with industry. So if you look at this graph on top, you can see CISTAR on the middle, and we work with the governance and institution. We have many partners. We have research and technology. We have the education, right? We're thinking on how all those pieces come together, and industry, right? So we talk to industry all the time. Our students are always in communication with them. What makes the best possible employee? How can we train it in the best possible way? We talk to venture capital people, with entrepreneurship, even with foreign governments, with other government agencies and other labs. So on the left, you see a group of 30 companies that we work with. Some of them you recognize, some of the largest corporations in the world, and some others that are very small companies that are starting, that they want to learn what's the research side of the business, so that they can apply that into their own operations. Here you see in the middle, you see some of the national labs that you have in the US, and some of them in other countries, and also some other government agencies. And here on the far right, you can see some of our entrepreneurship type of agencies that we have on our various universities that help the students if they're interested in developing technologies, bringing the technologies forward. Now, it is we have a unique team. I mentioned to you that the research team is composed of different thrusts. And the interesting part about this group is that we have some members that have actually worked in industry. And so we have 4 of them, and they have about 30 years each of industrial experience. So inside of our group, it's not only the academic part, but also what industry is doing, since our aim is to produce a real system at the end. And the colleagues that are part are about the best engineers in the world. So we think we have the best academic team in the world in this particular area. So it's a really opportunity for you to be part of all this and be able to interact with so many brilliant people and learn in many different ways. So at this point, I will pass the presentation to Denise.
Okay, so thank you, Fabio. I'm going to talk about the 2 other pillars. First, the diversity and culture of inclusion. And just because people might think they know the word, but to bring it down, make it a little more concrete, I want to talk about what we mean by broadening representation. One thing we care about, as Fabio says, is to really attract people from all different backgrounds. And so one thing you can do is you can look at within the country who's in engineering and who's underrepresented from different groups. And so we do try to broadly reach people who are underrepresented from groups such as races and ethnicities that are underrepresented right now in engineering, women, first-generation college, persons with disabilities, and veterans. So those are pretty much our identified groups that we really are interested in attracting more individuals into STEM fields, particularly engineering and particularly our center. We also find it very important, critical to build a culture where everybody can thrive, a culture of inclusion. And that really means trying to excite people and make sure that everybody feels that, you know, CISTAR is important to them and who they are, that they feel committed, that they can and want to succeed. They feel interconnected. We have all kinds of opportunities for interaction where we try and build in a little bit of fun as well as a lot of work so that people feel a real part of their group, whether it be their thrust group or the groups across the different campuses and interactions with industry. So I think that's a really special part of CISTAR. And also we really value cultural intelligence, what we call cultural Q, like IQ, but it's really understanding the culture and how to fit into it without losing who you are, so that there's room for everyone and that we work better when we understand each other, the different mesh of cultures, personalities, and everything in the room. And that's when people stay, that's when teams work effectively, and that's what our goal is. So I work hand in hand with all the pillars, and in the next slide, I work very closely with workforce development. And their focus and a lot of what we work together is to really develop students through different kinds of courseworks. I know now there's a course that Dow's offering. They have their research going on and professional development and also volunteer opportunities. And I'll talk to you a little bit about those in a little more detail in the next couple slides. But here you can see that there's some outreach going on with little kids, because one of our ways of giving back is to try and get kids excited about STEM. And so we have we're developing all kinds of mini experiments and things we do with them. Also, we provide a research experience for undergraduates, creating this rich situation where they do research, but they also get mentored and they develop professionally. And you can see in the poster there, it's one of our students who won a prize. We're very proud of her. And then we often have partnerships, and one of our key partners right now is with the National Society for Black Engineers, or NSBE, and they really have helped us too. We work hand in hand to increase opportunities for engaging with underrepresented students and teachers. So I thought I'd give you some concrete examples in the next slide of why CISTAR is unique in terms of all the opportunities that you get, in addition to having these amazing faculty in the research areas and the links with industry, is that you get a lot of very special training. For example, I just listed a few, there's a whole host, but safety and cybersecurity, entrepreneurship training, a lot of engineers one day or even sooner than that want to become business people of their own. They have some product they've developed. Building technical communication skills. You can have the best idea in the world, but if you don't communicate it effectively, it doesn't go anywhere. So we do a lot of training and building also how to be an inclusive leader, because once again, to get the most of your team and to have people productive and happy, you need to worry about these things. So we do all kinds of training, and then we have a lot of fun too at our annual and biannual conferences, where we can share what we've learned, share some food, and have some fun that way as well. In the next slide, just to give you more of a sense of some other kinds of things, there's a very active and productive student leadership council, representative across the universities, but all the students are involved, where there's the typical officers. We have our industrial liaison, our outreach coordinator, and we try and facilitate and help them do what they want to do. They drive things, and they're an important part of the center. They actually do a survey and report back to NSF on, are they getting what they need out of the center? And so I think that's very unique and very good for them. They have a brown bag series where they've had all kinds of talks, from looking at career paths, engineering, economics. There was one on, especially when we were all shut down with COVID, on how to keep a healthy, kind of positive, mindful attitude. Looking at patents and how to do one, all kinds of talks from people in industry and academia. They also have international experiences. There was a trip to Singapore, for example, and internships, which between our industry partners. Also, they get a lot of mentoring, and that's pretty critical to success. If you look at who really succeeds, it's people who've been mentored well. So we do a lot of training around talking to people about how to be a really good mentor. We give them mentoring experiences where our graduate students will mentor the summer students. And we actually, there's one where one of our engineering faculty is giving an award to a student who won the mentor award for that year. And the next slide. We also do a lot of in-person, and then we had to adapt and do virtual outreach sessions where you can see we'd go into a classroom or we'd walk the kids through it. And it was really quite an adaptation, but we had the kids in the kitchen with easy everyday kinds of materials, and we would try and teach them something about catalysis or something very much on their level. But I remember they were growing crystals in an eggshell, and they were very excited about that. And so we try and teach and get them excited about STEM fields, and particularly chemical engineering. So we do a lot of these kinds of things. And the next slide. Here's just something I thought was really interesting too, is that you can even look at the different kinds of research, and you can kind of have a simulation for very young first graders to try and get a handle on the kinds of things they should care about. And then on the next slide, because I know we're running out of time, I want to leave you time to chat. Finally, we have the summer research experiences where students come in either for 10 weeks and do research, and they have a mentor and they get all this professional development. Or we have a special program, which I'll invite you to look at a video at the end, where they actually come for 6 weeks and do research, and then they get to spend 4 weeks with at a NSBE SEEK camp. This is an engineering camp for kids where some of what they do is they learn different ways they can teach the kids. And so it's kind of an interesting summer where they get to do 2 very different kinds of things all in one summer. And once again, we're trying to kind of excite kids around research. We're trying to bring more people into the field. And then the next slide. We also have a research experience for teachers, and it's very special too that we have teachers that are working alongside with the students too, bringing their own different perspective. And they too spend some time at Purdue and then go to the kids camp. And then in the final, and back to you, Fabio.
Yep. So just to summarize that if you come to CISTAR, you become part of a team of diverse learners, researchers, practitioners, teachers, and industry government partners who are highly trained, part of a needed workforce. Then what you're going to do with that? Well, help our country realize the potential of shale gas as a lower carbon footprint, we call bridge fuel. And also, well, we make it possible for us to have a future that's sustainable energy economy. We have some videos that if you're interested, you could take a look. So for that, you can go to our website. It's maybe easy to remember, CISTAR.us. And then those videos are there. This one, the first video here, will give you an overview of CISTAR and what it is. The second one will give you CISTAR lab tour. And then the third one is talk to you about our summer program that we had done with the it's called the Summer Engineering Experience for Kids. So with that, we wanted to open the floor for you to ask any questions.
I see one chat. Oh, it's just to please use the chat window. I think we could unmute everybody if we want at this point. You could, I could go through here.
Can they unmute themselves?
No, I'm trying to look at that. Okay, I've unmuted. I hit the unmute all. Let's see if that works. Okay, anybody have any? Okay, it says everyone's unmuted. We'll see if that's the case because I still see some. Maybe people want to mute back. That's fine.
Yeah, but I think then it's their option of unmute or not. But at least they have that,
yeah.
that option, I think, right?
Right, and you can use the chat window too if you just want to ask a question that way. Any questions? Anybody curious of hearing more of any aspect of this, or?
Does CISTAR have, I guess, like a newsletter or any sort of anything like that that goes out to people so we can like find out a little bit more about some specific research articles?
Yeah, there's a newsletter that comes out a few times a year, but there's also different social media. So there's Slack, you can join the CISTAR that way, Slack channels. There's Instagram, a Twitter, anything else I'm not thinking of, Fabio? There's stuff on the web page, but probably not as much as there is on a
Yeah, and Brooke, if you
Twitter.
if you go to the CISTAR.us, then you'll find out all our newsletters. They're all there. There are links to all of them. You can read all of them that we posted. And some of them, the technical ones, will give you some snippets of what we've been doing technically. So you'll find out, a summary of some of the most interesting research that we've done.
Okay.
And of course, if you have more questions, our email is also over there, so you can, of course, contact us directly.
Yeah, there's a page on the CISTAR.us that has our people, and you can basically, if you have a question, you can figure out who to send it to. So our faces are all there and our affiliation, and you can click an email.
Okay. The second question, are most professors willing to take on undergraduate or in between undergraduate and graduate school interns like during the summer? Because I mean, I'm graduating this December. I'm planning to go to grad school, and I've got basically a spring and a summer with nothing to do. So are most professors like open to that, even if, say, I'm not necessarily going to graduate school at their university?
Yeah, so Brooke, we've done that in the past. People came, even they applied for graduate school here, and they were accepted, and then we had people that came in advance to start working with us. So we've done that in the past, but we also have a summer, a research summer program for undergraduates. Right?
Okay.
So research experience for undergraduates. We also have that. But I guess if you are graduated already, right, then ideally you would be accepted in one of our partners, and then you could even start your research and start thinking how things are going. That's really possible. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah. So by the way, this is the you should be seeing. This is our website, and then you can find out about what we're doing, and that's one of the videos, and here some of the news that we have.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd really recommend, if you go to the education page, the video there is really interesting. It's only 3 minutes, and it's just a lot of fun to get a sense of what the summer research was all about, and the graduate mentors and the undergraduates. And it's right there. It's fun to just listen to it.
Okay.
Any other questions or? Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming. And if anybody wants to hang on, we'll stay on for a few more minutes, but appreciate your attention.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Yeah, and please feel free to ask anything you want.
Yeah, get in touch if you need to. we can always set up a Zoom call and arrange one if you're interested.
Thank you guys. You have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Working in a research team at CISTAR in maybe some parts of our application, do you think it might limit our chances in getting maybe another staff supervisor that might not necessarily be working in CISTAR? I don't know if you got my question.
No, I didn't quite understand it. So
okay.
Can you repeat it and then we'll try and sort it out? There's a lot of background noise and I don't think it's, you know.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Repeat it? Yeah, a little better.
Okay, I was asking if, for example, I indicated interest in joining a research team in CISTAR, and I indicated that interest in my application, that do you think it might limit my chances of getting maybe another supervisor that I might better fit with in the department that is not necessarily in CISTAR, while the admissions committee are reviewing my application? Do you think it will limit my chances just because I indicated interest in working in a research team at CISTAR?
So, Fabio, I would think that it would have nothing to do with it, but go ahead. I think you know more about this than I do.
Yeah. So our admission process is what we promise our students, at least at Purdue, is that if you are admitted, we'll find you, the best possible advisor for your for whatever you want to be doing. That's the promise we made. So we are blind. You can, when you come, you don't have to at that point to choose anyone. So we leave it open to you. So suppose you say, well, yeah, I want to work with CISTAR, but once you come here and you look at other opportunities and you say, I know, now I want to work for this other professor, you are free to go and work on that. So we want to have the best possible options for the students. So it will, we'll keep it open to all of you. So in other words, when you apply, we look for, we ask you what you're interested in, but our interest there is to match you with the some of our faculty that could then help you maybe more, make your decision even before you come. So that's why we ask you, but we don't have a let's say preference for a student that would like to work in a particular area. We're pretty much we try to that's not, in other words, not a requirement. It's not a decision. We don't make a decision based on what the students' interests are for admission.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Fabi.
Thank you.